Welcome, everybody, to the Proactive Adventure Health and Wellness Podcast. Today, I have a very special episode. We're going to be talking about the Devil's Path with the people who have done the Devil's Path with me. So I'm just going to go around here and say hi to everybody. Spence.
Hi, Joe.
How you doing? Pretty good. Mel.
What's up?
How's it going? Vanessa.
Hi.
Champ.
I was going to wait.
Brittany.
Hello.
Rosette.
Hello.
And John.
Yo.
I'm so glad you all made it out here tonight. So this is going to be a freestyle talk on our Devil's Path experience. The Devil's Path was a series of mountains that were hiked by the natives, people of those lands, and they believed that it was made by the devil because the devil would be the only one who was able to walk on it. But we showed them, didn't we? Because we've walked all over that mountain. So that's like the lore of the mountain. But it was actually cut in the 20s and finished in the 70s to be what it is today. Let's chat about it. I made an attempt at doing it back and forth, Double Devil, back in May, and you were all there for it. And it was a pretty interesting experience. For some of you, the first time finishing the full Devil's Path, and some of you, the second or third time. To anybody who wants to answer this question, when did you first become aware of the Devil's Path and feel the want to complete it?
High school.
In high school?
Yeah, it's my uncle used to live near that place where we stayed.
Oh,
On Blue
Shaggerty's?
Mountain, yeah, on Blue Mountain Road. And out his front window is the view of all the Devil's Path. I wish I had bought his house when he sold it, but I didn't have money.
Yeah.
But my cousins had hiked various parts of it. And I said, oh, that would be amazing to hike that one day.
Mm-hmm. It took you a little while, but you got it done, though.
Yeah. Some obstacles got in the way.
Are you assuming he was in high school a long time ago, or?
You're assuming correctly. Took 30 years.
Anybody else?
I mean,
During COVID, when you introduced me to it for the first time and said, hey, we're going to do this little hike, and I said, that'd be fantastic. Couldn't make it that day, but once you told me that it was available, I realized I had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the same thing. I was supposed to do it with you back a year or two ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I got food poisoning.
That's right.
So this was something on my list for a long time, and this past May was only my first ever attempt where you guys have done it. So I've heard of it from you guys, have done it before.
Let me ask you this. Did it live up to your expectations after all that we talked about it?
I mean, I think I was a little bit nervous going into it because I remember hearing about Mel's first experience
That was special.
and everything. And I'm like, oh God, what are we doing? What are we getting into?
I'd say it was also intimidating as well because I've heard of it from you guys as well, and I feel like just watching the videos of all the storms that you guys encountered on your trips, I was like, wow, it's gonna be kind of crazy.
And we got pretty fortunate when we did
Yes.
it back in May.
Yeah, we had perfect.
Oh, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm going to talk to each of you about your first time doing it. So, and then we'll jump into when we all did it together. I think Spence was the first one who did it without us, right?
Correct.
So when did you do that?
Oh, snap. I think you had planned it for May of 2020, April of 2020, and I couldn't make it. Something was going on. And so I went out with a meetup group because I told myself I had to do it. And so I found the closest group that was going out, went with them. Oh, was that a mistake?
Why is that?
They had a list of 3 groups that were going, the fast group, the medium group, and the slow group. I was like, that's fantastic. I'm going to go with the medium group, and I'll always be able to bail into the slow group. What I found out was that the fast group does it in 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The slow group all bailed, and the medium group did not stay together. And so on my cold, rainy first experience, the Devil's Path, I was on it alone for half of the hike.
Doesn't sound like much fun.
But I did it.
But you did it, yep.
So once I got through it, frozen hands, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm doing this with Proactive next time.
Yes. How about you, Mel?
Well, the first time was 2020.
Yep.
Right?
That was
2020?
October 7th, 2020.
Yep. Oh God, I don't even know. I mean, that was a while ago.
That was a while ago.
But there were some highlights. Obviously, the weather was awful at that one point. Started hailing, and then the horrible decision to take a break midway and go in my car where it was warm because it was pouring. I think Daniel was the only one that stayed out of the car. And then up West Hill, got dark. I yelled at Daniel real quick, and then I had some knee issues, and then finally made it to the car. That just sums it up.
It sounds pretty harrowing when you describe it that way.
I mean, those are the points I remember. It's like literally all a blur. Like, I don't remember details. I just remember the beginning part, because we started, like 5 a.m.?
Mm-hmm.
And then the beginning part, I was like, oh, this isn't bad, going up like Indian Head, and it was like twin. I thought like the first half went by like really quick, I thought. And then it was just the second half that was really brutal.
Mm-hmm.
You live and learn. This time was a lot better.
Yep. Yep.
So,
You had definitely a better second experience.
oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know. It's like the first experience was like it had its hiccups, but that's what it made it what it was. It's hailing right now. It's hailing. We already went cold. Now it's hailing. So, things are going well. We have about 8 miles left. And, you know, I wouldn't change it, I don't think.
It probably made you stronger that you dealt with it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
That's what we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
We like to believe it, right?
This was more smooth sailing, I'd say.
I would
for
think
sure.
so, yeah. How about you, Vanessa? Now, your first time was in May, and you completed the Devil and a Half with me, which comes out to about 37 and a half miles and 12,000 feet. As your first attempt, how was your first experience on the Devil's Path?
Amazing. I think, like we said, we lucked out with weather. I was nervous going into it because since February I had like a constant hip issue, so I did not intend to do the back portion. But then everything just was on point. The weather, fueling, and normally for me, because like you and I were together for pretty much the whole out, and normally for me to keep up with you, I have to push a little. To be in your like casual pace, I have to push. But you were pulling back a little, knowing that you had to come back, and that kind of slowed you to my more comfortable pace. So like I was feeling good, and that's why we got to the end, and I'm just thinking it's not even 1 o'clock. The whole
Right?
day ahead of us. I know Joe's going back. I'm like, when's it going to be another opportunity for me to do that with someone? So it started to get into my head, and I was getting nervous. I remember telling Brittany, I'm like, I don't know, should I give her my key? Should I bail? Should I not? But then at one point I was like, no, I'm just going to do it. And I think it's kind of cool that my first attempt was 1.5.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. How about you, Brittany? Your first attempt was back in October 2020 as well.
Yeah, I think you told me I was doing it, so I did it. I specifically remember saying, Mel, okay, we got to leave one of our cars in the middle. And Joe was like, no, we're not going to leave either of your cars, so you guys can't bail. I'm like, okay. So the first time it was like, I felt like it was really rough because I was doing it based on mileage instead of doing it based on, okay, we climbed that mountain, we climbed this mountain. So the second time around, I had my little checklist of mountains. Laugh all you want.
No, I remember you
I
kept
know.
down.
I had my little notes, and I would delete each mountain that I did, and it made me feel happy. Like, oh, okay, all I have to go up is West Hill. I put every little hill too. I put St. Anne, so I wouldn't be like too cocky, you know.
That's right.
But the second time around was so much better. The first time, we didn't have a middle guy cheering us on
That's right.
and
That's right.
forcing us to eat.
And I just want to clarify,
Spence.
And
that's
water,
thanks
yeah.
to Spence, because on our attempt back in May, Spence was roving support. He was out there for all of us, met us at every...
Woke up at 3 a.m. even though you
Yeah.
didn't have to.
Yeah.
Yes, Spence went above and beyond that
Yes.
day to like take care of all of us, and I think a big thank you. We'll give you a little round of applause for that. You really made the whole day a lot better.
He made, honestly, that was so great with him there at every corner cheering us on like a dad, like videotaping, being like, yeah, keep going. It was so great. Yeah, so the second time was a lot easier, but the first time we did it, we camped and we were planning on driving home straight after. So, no wine or barbecue after the hike.
Which could help and hurt now that I'm seeing the way that goes.
I mean, afterwards, I was so excited to get back to Shaggerty's.
Made it to Shaggerty's, ready for the Double Devil.
And have my shower. But my first line of business was like, oh, I can't. I'm so glad I brought this wine,
Let me give a shout out to Sonny at Shaggerty's who hooked us up with a great place to stay
Thank you.
that weekend when we did attempt Double Devil, and it was an awesome spot. I hope to go back to at some point.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I see he built a water,
Yes.
a pond or a
Yeah.
water hole, I'll call it,
From
in
scratch.
his yard.
It was like
So-
under construction when we were there.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And we still have to check out, more time in the hot tub
Yeah.
and the
I was
sauna.
the only one that went in that hot tub.
Steve.
Oh, later on.
Steve
he
went
did.
in there
Yeah,
with the
that's right.
cigar. He
Yeah.
enjoyed himself.
I remember that.
He acted like he did double devil.
He bought the barbecue, so I think he had he had a big role in that anyway.
He did. He did.
Yeah.
So Rosette, this was your first time back in May doing Devil's Path.
Yes.
Now for you, it's kind of interesting because when you started hiking with us, you didn't like to do too many hard hikes or big hikes. You went away for a while, you did a lot of big things, and you were ready for it when you came back. So how was your first experience on the Devil's Path?
It was amazing. Just getting the support from everybody, the motivation, the determination from people, Spence rooting us on midway through, John kind of assisting me off of Plateau. It was just a great experience. I loved it.
You did a great job for your first
Thanks.
attempt. You really did.
Thank you.
How about you, John? Now your first attempt was back in May of 2022. So
That's actually kind of true, but not really.
oh please.
yeah,
there's a
actually,
s-
before
we got a
Pro-
scoop.
There was a life before Proactive.
Oh no, please.
And
Don't break it to me like this, John.
no. So like I said, I always wanted to do the Devil's Path, all that stuff, and so I decided to go up, and I had arranged like a car service and all that stuff because I was by myself, and the person got sick, so I was already planning to go anyway. So what I decided to do was let's see how far out I could walk. And then, when it starts getting too late, I'll just walk back, kind of thing. And so I walked all the way. I did halfway and back.
No.
Yeah. So, which was kind of it was fun going one way, but going back, it was just I tried to tell myself you're seeing everything from a different view.
Yes,
but
yes,
it was
yes.
also I wish I could have just kept going forward, kind of thing. But
Uh-huh.
it was cool. I camped out the night before at Devil's Kitchen. And then camped out that night again at Devil's Kitchen. Next day, went to Overlook, and I think I told you this. It was I went to go up the fire tower, and it was so cold that morning. It was in the 20s, and I went to open the door, and they had locked it for the winter.
Oh.
And I was so upset.
Disappointed.
Because it was so cold. Yeah, but it was no. But then the first time I completed it, yes, and that time, gosh, we had planned to go in May, thinking it would be cool, not too hot, and it ends up it was about 95.
It's a good picture.
The whole way, and there wasn't much water, and I think I drank something like 6-7 liters of water, kind of thing. But it was a blast.
It was a blast.
Yeah, Spence was there, Phil was there,
Yep.
Daniel.
Yep.
And I remember arguing with Daniel at the end. He was
Typical.
starting to hallucinate. Shout out Daniel. He was saying, I said, do we hit St. Anne's yet? And because I think that's it. And he goes, no, it's past us, behind us. And I said, no, I recall a story about Mel and you arguing about St. Anne's, and then being all upset you were going up St. Anne's. So I'm telling myself that we didn't hit St. Anne's yet. And then, we were going up and he was complaining. And I was like, no, I knew this was coming, kind of thing. But then I remember running down and I saw a sign that says 0.1 miles to the parking lot. And I caught up to Joe because I was booking. And I said, oh, come on, Joe, it's 0.1 miles. And you said, oh, no, that sign's wrong. A 1 fell off. It's 1.1
That's awesome.
Save your energy. And I was just so disappointed.
I was very dehydrated at that point.
That
There's
was
some
horrible,
videos.
yeah.
There's some videos from me that day where I am muttering and stuttering and
Yeah.
on Hunter. So we got Westkill to do. Still relatively early. But I felt good at the end of it though.
Yeah.
That day, the 100-degree weather day might have been the nicest one I feel like
Yeah,
weather-wise
and
that I had.
I did something like I was glad I did. I like to go get barbecue after hikes, some of you know. So I went to I think it's JJ Smokehouse or something like that afterwards, and they just kept giving me like pints of beer, and like for every pint of beer, I was like, I got to drink like 2 pints of water. And then I looked at the clock and it said like 11 at night, and I was like, I still have to drive like 2 hours.
Oh, you were going home? Oh,
Yeah.
That's rough. So what are we calling the Devil's Path? Like 20, I have on my Strava 24 miles and 8,300 feet. On the FKT website, it says 22 miles, 8,300 feet. So it's somewhere in between 22 and 24 miles, and
Yeah.
8,000 to 8,500 feet. So the way that Devil's Path is laid out is you climb Indian Head, then you climb Twin, Sugarloaf, you come down Plateau, that we all know how that goes, and you come to the road where you usually have your middle car, then you climb up Hunter, Westkill, and then you hit St. Anne's Peak, which John just talked about, which is sort of like an unnamed peak that you'll climb. It's named, but it's sort of like a mystery peak at the end to kick you on the ass on your way out. It's been brought up a lot of times when we talk about Devil's Path. It seems like that is a little story for everybody. Who would like to say something about St. Anne's Peak real quick here before we get into the rest of the Devil's Path? Mel looks ready. She looks ready because she looks like she's traumatized.
I just remember the first time we were in it was in the dark, so we couldn't really see that far ahead of us or anything. And then no one really knew. No one could really say if we had passed it or not. But then we hit it.
Oh no. Joe said we passed it.
Oh, he did say we passed
Said
it.
definitely.
I don't
Allegedly.
know.
On the record.
Allegedly.
On the record.
So like that messes with you mentally because when you hit St. Anne's, you know it because you're like my body. I don't know how I'm about to do this. Like you're so done with going up and down and up and down. And so it's just like a hill, but it might as well be a mountain at that point. So. Yeah, it's not my favorite. Do without.
There's no view or anything.
Yeah, no, it's just annoying. And honestly, like I think this time I like tripped and like on a rocket going up and like kind of fell forward and I was done at that point. I think Phil was behind me. I was just like cursing.
Wasn't it better though this time? Because like the first time we did it, I remember Joe saying, "Oh no, we were past that." I'm like, "Oh, thank gosh!" I was like all happy and I was like so excited. And then it came. He's like, "Actually, I think it's this one." Here. So my whole time that was the last little check mark on my notes. And I was not going to delete it until I literally saw it on all trails and zoomed in. This was it. Okay? So I was like super excited this time around.
Did you find it easier being able to see it or in the dark when you couldn't see it?
Well, in the dark, I was just trusting you. And
big mistake there.
In the light, I could see it. And I was like, oh, okay.
I think in the dark, for me, that's why I don't love hiking in the dark for too long. It really messes with you because, you're like, you can't see the end of you can't see that far ahead. So it literally starts to feel like you're just in this weird continuous black hole that you're never going to get out of.
That's fair.
For me personally. Yeah. But no, so I definitely liked it better in the daylight because I could see how much I had to go up, and in the dark, you're like, okay, when is this going to end? Like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So.
Does anybody find it funny that after the whole day, when you look at all these other peaks that you've climbed, like St. Anne's isn't really that bad. When you're standing there and you look, you can see the tops of the trees, and it's like very doable climb. But
It's also like Westkill is like a big mountain,
Oh yeah.
right? It's like I don't know if that's a fact or not, but like someone should check that. But it feels like it's like the widest one when you look at it from far away, and so it's just like that distance. And you're going down, it's like you feel like you should be done by now.
oh yeah,
No more
definitely.
views, like you hadn't had a view in a while, and you're
And
just
then
kind
the
of
going
wandering
down
in the
is
park.
just tough on your body.
Yeah.
Like you keep going down off of Westkill, you just feel like you're going down forever, and it just doesn't flatten out.
Yeah,
and then you have
Westkill
to go.
has all those false peaks.
Yeah.
I remember Rosette's like, "Hey, I'm reaching the top," and I was like, "No, you're not, because I'm not at the top." And I was like, I'm waiting for you at that lookout.
I kept asking him, I'm like, is this St. Anne's? Is this St. Anne's? He's like, no, you'll know when you get there. And I sure did.
I was just happy every time we stopped. I'm like, oh, look, Trillium, there's some more flowers. For me to take a picture of. This is great. I've got 600 to go.
You had a unique opportunity there because you weren't dying with.
Yeah, I feel like at that point you and I were like drunk little toddlers running off, and he was just like, let him be. And
A minute, recover.
I'm like, no, I'm gonna keep going.
It's like your on-trail therapist almost. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, he definitely was.
This is Colin.
It was a completely different experience for me because this is the first time where, you know, at the end of a hike, you usually think, okay, there's going to be a point where it's all mental, right? I've gotten to that wall, that physical threshold, and after that, it's all mental. For me, it was mental for the whole day because I had to wait.
Yeah.
And so I was actually very excited to do the night hike portion. That I love night hiking, and so I was all ready for it. I'm like, Joe, I've got 6 headlamps, 45 batteries.
He was ready.
I'm ready to go for the small army. Let's do this. But to wait first at the halfway point, and then at the normal end point, and then to get started on the way back, that was a whole different experience for me. And to know that I should not push you on the way back, right? Because we would have burnt out really quick. It was a totally different experience for me, and it was still fun.
Oh, definitely. I could verify I did burn out about 2.5 minutes into the reverse way back. I remember changing all my clothes down to the underwear, brand new, feeling dry and fresh. And as soon as we started going back up Westkill, I already started feeling like my mind started playing a lot of tricks on me at that point. And that's when I had all the different candies and snacks and all that I had been eating all day start to like mix together and become a citrus, coffee, vanilla, pomegranate flavor, burping that up the whole time. So let me ask you, how did you feel? I guess you just kind of answered that it was kind of frustrating a little bit, but how did you feel when we finally left the trailhead at Predator and you were there on your own for a little while and then you headed over to the middle? You were away from the group and you knew you had hours to wait. What was going through your mind at that point?
And knowing you were up at 3:30
Yeah.
and
So
you
you're
didn't get to
already
hike
exhausted.
until 1 something.
Well, no,
2 o'clock?
I planned this out.
Okay.
I did my estimates. I planned out the numbers of when folks were should maybe get to each point, and I took a little nap.
This is breaking news, folks, by the way.
Took a little nap. I was in the car getting prepared, made sure everything was in the right place so that I could throw candy at people, get water into every single person as they came by. It was an interesting experience because it did feel very much like I'm here to support the group in a very particular way, not as I normally would somewhere in the middle of the pack. Here I am at the front of in a different way. And it was interesting as I saw you and Vanessa come up to the middle point. I'm like, yeah, you guys are killing it. You're rocking. And then you rocketed off. And I'm like, wait a second. Should they have taken a break? What time did they are really pushing a lot harder than I had originally expected. Let's see what the burn time is. And then by the time the last crew pulled up and I stayed for 30 seconds and then went to the end, knowing that you guys were going to show up right away, I knew that I had to be prepared for you there as well.
At Spruceton.
At Spruceton.
Yes.
And it was a totally different mental game that I was going to have to be ready in 2 different ways at that end point.
How did you feel when you got to the middle, Mel? Because I know you kind of got to the middle after me and Vanessa had gotten there, and you hiked with us for about a minute, and then you went back to go grab your...
You didn't take it. So we
Well,
got
yeah.
there and took like a little break.
Yeah.
And then you kind of rolled in.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we're good. And you're like, no, wait for me. And I was like,
Yeah.
she didn't break it all.
No.
Yes.
Because for me, like, it's another mental thing. Like, I remember even on after we climbed, me, Phil, and his son climbed Plateau, that's where Phil caught up with me. It was weird because I was right behind Vanessa for a while, and then slowly she was getting more to you. And then I was like 5 minutes behind you guys because, we were sending each other updates.
Yep.
Like, cool, I'm only 5 minutes. And then that turned into 7 minutes, and then turned into 10 minutes, and turned about 15 minutes. Which was fine, but I thought that was funny because like every time you guys text me, I'm like, okay, what time is it? I'm like, okay, it's fine, it's fine. But no, like they sat down for a little bit. I was like, I can't sit down and just like, because then I'm having flashbacks of the last time where we sat down for too long, and then that was just like absolute, just my mental was gone. So like I was just like, okay, I still have the energy, so let me just, and then going down Orchard was obviously that's steep down on my knee, so I just wanted to make sure I did that somewhat slow, just because my knee.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I saw you guys were still at the midpoint, I was like, oh my god, they're still here. Like that's pretty cool. But when I went back for my bag, he was like, you gotta eat something. Yeah. That's when I had more
That's
water.
right.
That's when I
That-
went
he
into his
called her
little
back.
trunk
That's
of
what
like
happened.
treats, and I I go in that trunk. It's like,
That's right.
anything I could possibly need was in there. So I just grabbed a few things. He's like, is that it? Is that all you need? Are you sure? And I'm like, I think so. Lo and behold, I did run out of water, but it was right before the end, so it wasn't that bad.
But you did it
Yeah.
right,
If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have eaten anything, I don't think.
I
just wanted
know.
to keep going. I wanted to just stay in the zone. But yeah, calories. I needed those calories, so.
At that point, when we were in the middle with Mel, did you recognize from Devil's Tombstone you were going to do the halfway back?
It was literally no. So
It's
I
when you saw me,
remember.
right?
I remember when we finished, I was like, I'm just gonna go up with you and Spence until I meet up with them, and then go back down. But then it was like, okay, I'm almost like at the top of West Hill, and I'm like, I might as well, like, it's almost the same distance at one point for me to keep going.
Yep.
And I was really doubting it. And I really wasn't 100% sure, and that's why, like, even I gave Brittany the key, and I was like, "Don't drive away." I was like, "I will text you, but don't drive away." Like, I didn't know until I was like fully in it.
And you wound up looking pretty fresh at that second half ending. I have to be quite honest with you.
I had, it was
Definitely.
hard
You
to
did.
like trust myself and know that I was feeling good. Just go with it, but.
I think you could have done the whole thing.
I think.
She seemed like she could have,
Yeah, she
Yeah.
seemed awfully
It was-
chipper.
right? Much more coherent than I was.
Joe smoking his.
Joe, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. So when we finished the first time and we headed back up Westkill, we ran into you guys
Yes.
coming down to finish the first time. Brittany, how were you feeling at that point? I was already burnt out on the way back up Westkill, and you were coming down Westkill. Do you remember how you were feeling at that point when you ran into me?
Oh my gosh, I felt like $1,000,000. I think I was running down. I was so
You think you
happy.
were? You looked great.
I was actually like thinking, man, maybe I could just go halfway. And then I was like, oh, I'm way too far behind. Like at that point, by the time I got down to like catch up with you guys, but I was like, oh, I felt really good. I was really happy.
Uh-huh.
I was feeling great. And I sat in Vanessa's car waiting for everybody. I didn't know who I was supposed to wait for, and there was no service. All I could see is like,
No service.
so I just like waited there for like ever, and all I could see is the bugs
Not
like
forever.
attacking like the windows like of her car, like trying to get in. And yeah, I felt good. I'm feeling like next year maybe we should up the ante.
I think we might. We're gonna try this again. This is
Yes.
not. This
We
is
have
not
to
a one and
commit to
done.
that
Yeah.
Pull out.
Yes, that is going to
And
happen.
get more sleep next time.
Yes.
Got, what, like
Yes.
3 hours or something.
And
like that?
and start earlier.
and start.
Yeah, I
I
think
would-
4.
4.
Yeah.
I would even be happy to start at 3
Me
next
too.
time. Because I think last time we were up till 3, maybe no.
We're up
Felt
until
like
like
it.
almost midnight.
We had so
and
much
then we have
like
to get up.
anxiety jitters. Like I had so much
Yeah.
jitters.
The problem when we do things like this is that we rarely see each other as a group. And then we're in like a nice place that we're never off, we're not often in, like Shaggerty's, which, is a nice property. And then we want to enjoy ourselves. So then it's like we're up till past midnight eating and drinking. Not even like we're getting, going beyond anything. Just
Yeah.
you should be asleep by 8 if you're going to wake up for a 50-mile hike the next day. I don't know.
Facts.
Some of us got there at like 7.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I got there
Some
after
people
after
for the
8.
car
Yeah.
dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So Rosette, when we ran into you guys together on the way back up
Yeah.
Westkill, you would then be at that moment close to your first finish of the Devil's Path. I get the sense that you probably knew you could do it without any problem because of all the other things you did. But how were you feeling when you were coming down for the first finish?
I was feeling pretty tired. Definitely was reaching the end of my rope at that point.
Uh-huh.
Just had to keep drinking and eating food every few minutes. John kicking me in the butt every now and then. He's like, "You got this. There's only like 0.5 left." I think when I was like literally, I don't know, 0.3 left, I was like, "I don't think I can do this anymore." He's like, "No, you got this."
Uh-huh.
And and we made it out. But it was tough. Yeah, it was tough.
When I seen them, I was like, beep, beep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the best
I'm
feeling
surprised
ever.
somebody was still there.
I didn't know what to do.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. I said, don't leave until
Yes.
they'll tell you.
Yeah, you told us to
Yeah.
tell Brittany.
Yeah.
That was-
Because I had no service
So I had
there.
her just
Yeah.
sitting in my car.
Because I was like,
doing
she doesn't have service there.
And listen, I
I
don't
was
want to
like-
complain or anything, but your car was a little messy. I'm so glad my car wasn't at the end. Because I had just bought my car, and I was like, I'm so glad that I picked
All
a
the
more
dirty people are-
seasoned car. But yeah.
Well, that's another thing. So I drove your car back to the Airbnb with Phil and his son, and we could not for the life of us figure out how to get the
emergency
e-brake
brake.
off. I felt so stupid, and you had already gone with you and Vanessa, and like it was both me and Phil both couldn't figure out because usually it's right by your
Is it
foot,
not
right?
just?
Yeah,
Well-
where was it?
Well, hold on.
Okay.
So it's usually right by your foot, so I keep looking, and I'm like, it's not here, and he even like bends down, he looks, he's like, where would it be? And I was like, and like so then his son was like the one who was like, why don't you just pull out the manual? And we're like.
It's a manual.
Into the manual.
Yeah, we literally went into the manual, and it was by my foot, but it was just higher up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That took a good solid 15 minutes.
Really?
I'm not exaggerating.
I don't
It
remember
was.
this story.
Yeah, I don't think we
I
told
don't think we
anybody.
did.
Ah, you were
It's a
embarrassed.
little embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Chris told me.
I remember being like, why did Spence tell me how to undo the e-brake? I'm like, well, because it's common sense.
You were right in the right
I
area.
have to tell you that I cranked the e-brake to make sure it's not going to go anywhere.
It's funny though.
John, you stuck with Rosette a bit,
Right.
and you did kind of pull back a little bit at a certain point to make sure that you and Rosette stayed together.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
at most of that end of that hike. How do you feel? Do you feel like that helped? Let me rephrase the question, because after you stayed with Rosette, you went back to the middle point and hiked up to Hunter,
Yeah.
right, and back down. Do you think that your pacing at that second half of that hike, if it was a little slower, gave you a little more energy to go up Hunter?
I think I just felt I was very prepared that day.
Uh-huh.
Like whenever we decided to go to bed, I know some people had trouble falling asleep. I passed right out on the couch.
I had a little trouble falling asleep.
Yeah.
We slept like the Three Stooges on the couch.
Oh yeah, it was pretty
There's a
funny.
picture.
There's
There's
a,
a-
I took a
Insert picture.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I
you
got the
should
picture
insert
of
the
this
picture.
one. Sure, absolutely.
I would love to
Had
see
to,
that
yeah.
picture. That sounds funny. But yeah,
I had like a queen bed to myself.
Me
That's
too.
right.
I had I think maybe even a queener can. I don't know.
Chivalry is not dead.
no.
Well, you
no,
had
it's not.
Steve, so next time
Well,
I'm
that
just
was
gonna
the
find
second
some random guy. Listen, pretend to be my boyfriend
Yeah,
so
get
I
a
can
bigger
get the bigger
bed.
Could have
bed.
made a pillow wall. It would have been
That's so
fine.
funny. But I think so I had to I forgot what I'd done some hikes previous, like we did the Great Range not too long before that, and I did some other things. So so I was all prepared to go out and halfway back with food and everything, and I felt like I was going the fastest, but then like the signal was getting spotty, and then when I saw Rosette, like you were having trouble going up Plateau, and I knew if I went down Plateau, I wasn't gonna have signal. And she was like, "Go ahead, 'cause you had that fancy satellite thing."
Yeah.
And all I could think was like, if I see a rescue team coming here, I'm gonna feel like the worst person ever. So I was like, I'd rather. So I just I said, I'll go down. I'll hang out with Spence.
Yep.
And so I had a long break, and then she came. He left because he was worried about you not being there. And then I was like, yeah, you better just relax. And she did. But you did great going up Hunter.
Yeah.
And then I would just wait certain points and stuff like that. But I think I probably could have came halfway back. I had planned to finish
That
at
was your
10
plan,
at
right?
night,
Uh-huh.
so I think that would have been feasible, kind of thing.
You instead were at Devil's Tombstone or the campground down there with a fire lit.
Oh yeah.
And when my delirious zombie body stumbled out of the woods, I remember Spence and Vanessa took an aside to have a conversation, a little sidebar, like they don't think I realized that I noticed, but I saw them step away, and then I saw a
Joe's
figure.
dying.
It's like
What
when
should
your
we do?
parents talk
That's
about
pretty
you when
much-
you're right
That's kind of what it felt like. And I
gotta
remember
force 'em.
I saw this figure coming away from the fire, and it was John. It was like he started the fire. He made it really cozy for my quitting. It was good. And then they all came over, and I think it was Vanessa that just said she's holding her phone performatively, and she's just like, well, they're all over at the house waiting.
Oh, I was trying to make it that sound really good.
And there's barbecue food. Everybody's like showered and in their pajamas, just waiting for you to get back. And I mean, I was definitely susceptible at that moment to being like, yeah.
My legs are cramping now.
I'm here at Devil's Tombstone. What is this, Stony Clove? Yeah. I'm here at Stony Clove with John, Vanessa, and Spence. And we've made an executive decision to be happy with our 12,000 feet of climbing and our 37 miles and to go eat barbecue. And so that's what we're going to do. Update. Disappointed. I think I can
Like
go
when
back and
there's
eat some
barbecue
barbecue.
waiting for you.
Yeah.
I mean, if let's say there was no car there, I think I would have made it.
Yeah.
It would have been
Would've had
rough.
to, yeah.
I would have
I
had
think
to.
it just would have been.
I think I made the right move, though, going back to
I
the house
kept
to eat some
thinking of
barbecue.
you going up Orchard to Plateau, and I was just
Yeah.
like, that's going to be really brutal, I think.
It would have been
Yeah.
brutal. It would have been a rough one.
And then going down Plateau, knowing how annoying it is going up.
I wasn't
think
looking
it's
forward to that.
Just that whole part would have been in the dark. So that's
Yep.
what
Yeah.
we're saying.
Yeah,
next
especially
time.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sugarloaf is so technical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a less scramble. Like Plateau and going up, at least it's like a switchback trail.
Switchback, yeah.
Yeah.
Going up Sugarloaf, you got rock scrambles. There's a bunch of them,
Mm-hmm.
and doing that in the dark because like you're not sure where the trail is. It's not marked
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
I was picturing
Yeah.
all of that, just sort of
Yeah.
scrambling up, like, you
Yeah.
know, even up at the end, scrambling back up Twin and Indian Head, it would have been
Yeah.
rough, and, you know.
Yeah.
So I think the right move was made.
So could we ask you that question? So like you asked us how we felt. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know you didn't have the best, but like where did you feel?
Where did you feel it
really
was dropping
turned, or
off?
Where, yeah, like where.
Probably,
'Cause, like I was with you for a lot, like Plateau, that area. Like we were great. You were looking great still, like and everything. So like where did you feel the
I think
shift?
I felt great all the way through the first portion. I felt pretty good at the end after I had changed. Once I was going back up Westkill, I immediately started to like break back out into this sweat I had 2 seconds ago and before I changed. And my mind started playing a little bit of tricks on me there. I was starting to feel the food, but I was still very confident that I could finish without any issue. Spence was with me when that was probably right past St. Anne's. This like, I think it was after we climbed back up St. Anne's on the other way, you know, heading back, what would that be? Heading back east, right? Because it's east to west.
Yeah.
And so heading back east. And I said to Spence, something along the lines of like, I don't think I can fucking do this. Just like that. And I know I sounded like dehydrated and delusional. And Spence was like, but something along the lines of, he basically said I had to try, because he just needed me to get to the park. He needed me to get back to the second, at least to the midpoint. And I was trying to vomit. I was trying to vomit at that point, and I just couldn't vomit up all those mix of flavors together. And it was becoming very, very frustrating because I really felt like I had to, but my body had already used all that content that I put in there, that material. It was already gone. So Spence did tell me, at least give it a shot. But I kind of knew that.
I also, not to cut you off.
No, go
but
ahead.
I remember, I guess you were changing. This was before, and even any of us headed back. That's
Yeah.
when he pulled me aside. He's like, "What do I need to know?" I'm like, "Well, he's
Mom and Dad.
stopping." No, I'm like, "He's stopping,
Kids drop off.
chugging electrolytes, like an entire bottle in one sitting, and then going." I'm like, "He needs to pace himself." So like, I was trying to like tell him like some of the things that you were doing, where I'm like, "You need to stop that." Like, he was literally like, we were like giving the information of what needs to be done. And I remember that was your issue. It was like you were chugging just an entire liter or bottle of water and like not drinking for like the next 5 or 6 miles. And I'm like, that's probably not sitting well.
Was not sitting well.
Oh, slosh.
It was definitely not sitting well.
It was such a unique position for me because I'm always lagging you. You're always a mile ahead, a minute ahead, 4 feet ahead, something in front of me. I've never been in front of you before. Me going up, leaving from that parking lot, I was like, oh, this is strange. I can tell you have pushed very hard and you put everything out there for that first half. I have to slow down for Joe. How is this possible? And it was all mental. At that point, I knew it was all mental because you're basically, you put out all the effort to get through first half as fast as you possibly could, and then I had to check time. I had to look at mountains ahead. I had to see what pacing was going to do to get us to the halfway point. And on our way down, I saw that warm, cozy fire, and I was like, I know what's going on.
I remember when we crossed paths, like, Rosette, you kept walking because you were like,
Yeah,
I
I
just
couldn't
gotta keep
stop
going.
at
She
that
was like,
point.
I can't
I'm
stop.
like, if I stop, it's game
But
over.
you were like, something's not right with Joe. And I go, what's wrong? And then you started telling me this. And that's when I knew I had to go to that's when when I called up to Rosette, I was like, you're going to take me to the halfway point. I'm just going to hang out until they get there. And I'll like, you guys know me. I love starting fires. If I had steaks, I would have made steaks in that fire and stuff like that. But it was just like, that's when I knew I had it. Just at least like do the Spence on the way back. I didn't know if you were going to stay or not. But, I got bored, to be honest with you, and I saw a bunch of wood lying around. I always keep tinder in my car, and that's when I started the fire. But yeah, I never saw like that look of concern on Spence's face before, like this confused look of concern.
That was not my day. That day
Yeah.
was not my day.
But you learned from it.
I did learn
Yeah.
from it. I know a few
So next
things we're gonna
time.
do. We're gonna wake up
Yeah.
earlier. I'm gonna
Not work out that week.
Not work
Oh,
out.
Yeah, no.
Do the hardest workouts ever.
Yes, I definitely burned myself out with a lot of workouts the week previous.
Different food.
Different
Cocktail,
snacks.
yeah, cocktail of gels and
Give me some
all
Yes.
that.
simple
Solid.
carb. No, what am I trying to say? Like, not processed.
Not processed. Chex Mix is good.
I'm telling you guys,
That did
fruit
the
is
trick
the
for
way
me
to
last
go.
Well, no,
Fruit
that
is-
fruit and then Vanessa with
Love
her
it.
pierogies.
The pierogies.
Yeah.
makes
I
sense.
don't know how you do pierogies.
My fueling
So
strategy was solid food, which was like my pierogies or I do the waffles.
Yeah.
Then the next time was like gels. And then the next time was the chews, actually, that
Oh, those
Spence
chews.
gave us. So that was like more energy. And then I just
Yeah.
did that every time I ordered it, like every 45 minutes. Then it
Uh-huh.
was back to the solids,
Yeah.
back to the gels, back to the chews, and then rotated it. And I feel like it kept a good flow going. And I didn't have a weird mix of gel electrolyte.
It was rough. It was rough.
Yeah. So.
The best part about it is that I get down to the middle. I meet up with John. John has his fire down there, and Spence and Vanessa have already coaxed me into leaving. And we get into the car, and this is, again, my stomach is a mix of all these terrible flavors, and I'm feeling terrible. And John is driving down, starts driving, and he says, Have you ever heard of the origins of what is
RX bar.
of the RX bar?
Oh, my God.
And so I'm already like needing to vomit. And he just starts talking about RX bars and getting into all these trail snacks. I remember,
Yolks and just
yeah, exactly. I remember sticking my thumbs in my ears, my pinkies in my eyes, and just like
Window
holding.
down.
I was just in a whole different world
Finally
at that
said
point.
something.
He couldn't take it anymore.
I couldn't take it anymore. It was like torture, but I did feel like I made the right decision at that point. Who has a memory of being on Indian Head that morning back in May? Anybody? The first climb.
I mean, I remember it just because the lighting was very nice.
The lighting was very nice that
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, it was pretty. But I just zoomed right past it. I didn't stop.
That's kind of, I think, what we all.
I think we all just
We all
kinda-
probably just zoomed past.
Did anybody
Indian Head.
stop at the chair? The throne? The stone throne?
No.
No.
Yeah, I think it was the only one.
Oh, you did stop.
Yeah, I did stop there. I couldn't get a good selfie because it's like my arms are.
Yeah, that would have been
Yeah,
real
yeah,
pain.
Yeah, because like Phil asked me and I was like, dude, you passed it. Yeah.
Oh, at that hour, it's like you don't even think.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just
yeah.
blast right by it. And we all climb up Indian Head, we all blast by it, and we all wind up on Twin at some point. Who remembers being on Twin?
Yeah, I
Remember a quick
yeah.
little picture.
Yeah.
Took a quick
It's like
picture.
the best view, yeah.
I remember
yeah.
we had service on Twin, so that's when I got when you guys had texted you were on Twin, and I was like, oh, I'm only 5 minutes behind. That was like the only time I was only 5 minutes behind. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we were all split up at that point, so none of us were really together. I think you probably met up with me around that time, right? At Twin or right after Twin?
I think it was a Twin. 'Cause you
I
said
think.
you were together on Twin. I thought.
I think we might have met
I
up
think
on
that's
Twin.
about where I caught up to you.
Then we started going together for the most part after that. Next was Sugarloaf. Any of you remember being on Sugarloaf? Any memories from Sugarloaf?
I just remember going down and I ran across a bunch of people that we're doing it in reverse, but
yeah.
doing a multi-day trip. I don't know if you all chatted. I love chatting with people on the trails. Wait.
We
Where
could
you
have done it
going?
multi-day. This whole time I thought it was a requirement. You have to do it in one day.
No, it's
Joke's on me.
it's impossible
proactive
to.
requirement.
It's exactly. It's impossible to do it in more than one day. It needs to be in one day.
I just remember thinking how steep it was coming down that
Yeah,
backside,
yeah,
and like
yeah.
slippery.
Very technical.
I actually do remember that is where we were together and we were talking about certain stuff and you're like, I'm gonna have to do this again in the dark. I'm gonna have to do this again
Yeah.
later. Remember we were having that
Yes.
and I was like, we had some kind of conversation about that stuff where you're like, yep, I was just thinking how rooty that is. I was just thinking how rocky it is and I'm gonna have to
it's
do it
definitely
again.
hard to go up than it goes down.
It's funny, that spot that you're talking about is what I kept picturing when we were talking at Devil's Tombstone when I got finished.
you
It's
should
like
go back out.
I kept picturing that area and just sort of sloshing through it
Yeah,
and
there
like
was some wet,
because
yeah.
it was wet
It was
rocks
wet.
and all that, and I just pictured it being worse because it
In
did
the
start to
dark.
rain too, right after we finished. Didn't it start to rain that evening?
It drizzled a little bit
Oh.
when I think I was on Hunter.
Uh-huh. So I guess in my head I was picturing it being worse at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Then we all get up to Plateau and head down Plateau to that center point where me and Vanessa met with Spence, and Spence threw candy at us and got us all prepped. We met up with Mel a bit. I do want to ask, though, so at the center point, what were your thoughts when you got to Devil's Tombstone this time?
I was glad I was halfway. I was just like, okay, cool. I was glad to be done with going down Plateau because I was just really hard on my knees. I remember trying to mentally prepare myself for Westkill, which was not even the first. It was after Hunter, but Westkill, I remember specifically from the first time. And I was like, okay, well, like, you know, at least it's not like the first half with Plateau and the whole 1,200 feet of gain in like a mile, whatever. But, you know, yeah, it was still bad. No, but no, I was just glad to be halfway. I was like proud of myself that I saw you guys still there. It's like, oh, cool. And yeah.
And you were careful not to take too long of a break like last time.
I probably should have though. Like I remember thinking when I finished, I'm like, I probably should have spent a few more minutes that just there drinking water, eating more. I definitely don't think I ate enough because I tend to forget to eat on hikes. So I should have taken that time, to just
think
relax, like just take my time, like slow down a little bit.
Yep.
You and Phil and Chris were the fastest of the whole group with your break. And I was like, you need to stop for a minute, take a drink, eat as much as you can, because I know you haven't eaten enough, and
Yeah.
get back out there.
Yeah, no, I'm glad Phil and his son, ended up being together for most of the second half, because the first half I was pretty much by myself the whole time. And he really helped me, like, on the way down off of West Coast. I was really losing it. I was like, you could tell I was fading. I was a lot quieter, or whatever. And he's like, hey, we can do this, only a mile left, or whatever it was. Yeah, so, and those times it's good not to be alone, for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
How'd you feel midpoint?
I felt good. The vibes were high. I feel like we were having a little party there.
Oh, that's
Like,
right,
we have
that's right.
We have the picture of the three of us.
Oh, yeah.
too, where it's like, I'm saying, the vibes were high there. And, like,
They were.
I just feel like I had a plan where like I already had like my other flasks of water ready to go to like swap it out. And then he was like, oh, the assortment of snacks. And I was like, ooh, what looks good?
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt really good going into the halfway.
Mm-hmm. Brittany, midpoint?
I felt great.
You did feel great.
Yeah. Spence was trying to make me eat stuff, but I just took a couple electrolytes and just kept it moving because I was feeling I was happy. I was like, this is basically it. It's only like 1 mile, couple more times.
One mile.
Only
a couple
two more
times.
mountains, one little baby. I'm like, this is it. I'm done. I was done. In my head, I was done.
I believe that.
You were cruising.
I was so
Not
happy.
so fast.
Rosette, midpoint.
I mean, I just remember suffering up Plateau, suffering down Plateau. But then when I got to the midpoint, I was like, all right, I still feel like I've got enough energy to keep going. Because I think in my head, I was telling myself, let me get to the middle point, and if I don't feel like I can push further, that would be my end point, and I would still be happy about that. But I felt pretty good, and John was there, and we took like a 30-minute break, and that just kind of pepped me right back up. We're like, let's hit Hunter.
Nice.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I got there. Spence was there. He was like, oh my God. He didn't throw food at me because I think he knows I eat. He's like, nobody's eating, nobody's drinking. You don't understand. Like, I have to force them. I was like, hey, Spence. I was like, Rosette's not too far behind.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I took a little bit break with Spence, and then we were just trying to figure out logistically, like I was just trying to debate, I wasn't sure how far Rosette was behind, so I wanted to like make sure, and then I was trying to debate like, do I want to go halfway back, like what, like you know, I'll just kind of feel the rest of the way, and then you came down. I could tell you needed a break, so I said, all right, mountains are always there. Come back anytime I want, and then I said like, we'll just make. I was like, take your time. We have so much daylight. We have headlamps and everything. And, you know, just like, you're better off just like taking that long break if you need it, kind of thing. And, but I felt fine. And then, I just felt like going up, Hunter. I think we tried to stay together a bunch. Yeah. And then, we just got separated. I would just wait every so often, kind of thing. Same with Westkill. Like Westkill's like, it's just, like I said before, it's just a huge mountain. Like, and you're just like, if you shout out Westkill Brewery, it has the best view of Westkill. But when you're sitting at the brewery and you just see it, you just realize how like long it is, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's a slug. And it has so many false peaks. It's like, like, you know, you get to one place, you feel like, oh, I'm there, and then it's like you start going down a little bit, and then you go straight back up again, and then there's a lookout, and you're like, oh, I'm almost there. Nope, you still got to go up, and then it's the same thing down, kind of thing. So
it's rough.
Yeah, it is rough.
Westkill was one that I was not looking forward to because I've done every mountain in Devil's Path, just not as the full Devil's Path. But you remember our Westkill experience when Mel ditched us.
I do remember that.
That was National Ditch Joe and Vanessa Day.
That's right.
I don't remember
And
this.
we
I'm
had
sure you don't.
We had an awful experience
I don't
on
remember that at
Westkill.
all.
Mel wanted to really go to Westkill.
Oh, so it was my idea?
It was your idea. And Mel and Lauren were going to be there.
Oh, well, it had to have been her.
They were
And
carpooling, obviously.
I think you were going to be there too.
Yeah, this was in the snow, right?
Yes,
snow,
they went
yes.
to Beacon. They
Oh,
were
we
late.
met at
They went to Beacon instead.
remember?
Yes,
We
that's
drove
right.
I don't remember this
snow
at all.
It was like 2 in the afternoon.
miles up Westkill. And that was like my only time I've ever hiked Westkill. And
Where we were stepping in somebody's somebody's snowshoes.
Oh,
That's what
yeah, it
happened.
started-
We followed about a half a mile of snowshoes, and
my
whoever
God.
was snowshoeing just said, "Fuck this." Somebody was hiking up this way, and then just completely stopped. Now we'll break trail. And turn around. Exactly. And so then we broke trail for the next like
But it-
mile and a
It
half.
wasn't even that. We would step on the snow. It would take a second before we sank. It was like
That's right.
it wasn't even just nice breaks
So
in
it wasn't-
snow. We would like
yeah.
step on it, sink through, then have to keep
probably
walking.
wet, yeah.
And your stride is too big, so like I couldn't even just fall. I still had to break my own trail. And that was my only ever experience on Westkill. I mean, I knew there wasn't going to be snow in May, but it was like that mental block where like that was when I was thinking going back. I'm like, I'm going to climb it the way we did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so,
that was
like,
a rough one.
yeah.
We had video game properties at ice because you could step on it for a second before it just fell away. So you had to just like really keep moving your feet. Oh, so the second half, Hunter and Westkill, is a whole different animal than the first half. Some people, who in this room would say they like the second half better than the first half? Okay, so that's pretty unanimous.
I like going down. I like Hunter.
You like Hunter,
Yeah, I like Hunter.
but as part of the Devil's Path, it's a half. Do you
I
like
like
that
the
second
first half better.
I think everybody
Yeah.
seems to like that first half better.
Well, because I like the rock formation, the views, and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
And it's
yeah.
not so like you're going up and then down, and the next one's like right there is up and down. It's not such a long time before you hit. It's like between Hunter and Westkill felt like forever for me.
Yeah. Did you get the Buck Ridge Lookout sunset this time or no?
No,
passed.
because it was like 1 o'clock.
It was 1 o'clock. Yeah. Well, nobody got sunset.
Yeah, no, that was the whole thing with the first time. Was I wanted to get there
Nobody
by
got
sunset,
sunset.
so bad, and then we just missed it, and we get up there.
Triggered. I thought that was it.
Well, that's
like,
actually
you
where I
should've
bumped
seen
into John on the trail.
Yeah,
At Buckridge Lookout.
yeah, because I knew there was a signal there and everything.
Gotcha,
I
gotcha.
took like a little break, and all of a sudden I hear like some movement in the woods, like some loud, I don't know, like a tree falling or something. I thought it was like a bear, and I'm like, he's like, it's just me. He's like making
It's
like
just me.
a bridge on the trail. I don't know,
Yeah,
going over this
yeah.
patch of like, I don't know, swamp.
There's like that swampy area on Hunter.
Yeah,
It's
you-
always swampy.
Yeah, he's
You
like
fixed it?
literally fixing the trail.
I was
yeah.
like, figure it's
Scared the
like,
crap
might as well. There was a bunch of logs. We got bored.
I love that so much. Who here would say that Devil's Path is the hardest hike they've ever done? That's what I like to see.
No.
Can somebody just say, so what do you think is harder?
I thought the presidential range. Was
You thought the
harder.
presidential
Oh, yeah,
range was
for
harder.
you? Yeah,
Yeah, you couldn't run any of it. You couldn't like cut any corners. Like John, we kept hyping it up. Like, don't worry, there's this great part where you can run, and like we can make it run. And literally, we get there, and it's like 3 steps. I'm like, John, did we pass that? Oh yeah, we already
That's
passed
so
it.
bad.
I'm like, it's starting. Now it's starting. I'm like, wow, really, John? But I thought that was a little harder. But maybe
Presidential.
it's because like I did the Devil's Path twice. The second time I felt like it was a breeze.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the Highlands tour was harder than this Devil's Path the second time.
Uh-huh. See, that's interesting how that happens, how it
Yeah.
gets skewed.
The first time it's hard to like, I guess maybe that was the hardest the first time in my head because of how much I had under my belt already and stuff. So I guess like, you know, it really depends, but the second time I felt like was like a breeze compared to like what we went through the first time.
It's so situational because like how your hike goes depends how your body is doing, how your mind's doing. So like I feel like when we did the 20 miler before May, when did we do that? It was like by Beacon and all that.
That was
Beacon
Bully in
was that
January.
Okay,
Yeah, yep.
Beacon
Oh,
Bully.
yeah.
I remember really struggling on that. Like my knee hurt, mentally it wasn't great.
It was pouring rain too.
Yeah. And it was rainy, so that does do something. But like I felt so much better on Devil's Path than I did that day, which some people would be like,
It is very
really think
interesting.
that, but I think it really just depends on like how much sleep you get, you know, like what
And
are
how
you
you,
eating,
how you
you
hype
know,
yourself up
did you work
too?
out that
Because I think
week?
we were all hyping ourselves up that it was going to be like so horrible, such a
Yeah.
long day. You know what I mean? And we put the bar really high of misery, and we didn't hit it. We just
We
it low.
did not hit it.
That's true. So we really set the standards for misery pretty high the first time.
Yeah.
So I feel like
That's true.
maybe since it felt like I kept waiting for something, like knees start hurting or something. I kept waiting for that wall, and it really thankfully happened.
Yeah, no, I
you
don't think
know?
I saw anybody hit that wall.
Yeah.
At the beginning, when y'all left, I couldn't tell. It was just a normal sort of send off. Normal, everyone was starting off. We're all groggy, and everybody started up the mountain. At the midpoint, the energy was so electric, I couldn't even tell that anybody was in pain at all because everyone was going the absolute fastest that I've ever seen this group move. And it was just awesome.
Well, I had PRs for everybody that day. Everybody here got a PR one way or the other, whether it was the amount of time it took to finish the Devil's Path, elevation, or mileage. So that was pretty cool that everybody was able to achieve something like that day. For Rosette, I have a question for you. So Devil's Path, you did not raise your hand. It was not the hardest hike you've ever done. I know you've done a lot of hikes out of this area.
Yeah.
Is it one of those that you would consider harder?
You know, I was trying to think about that while we were talking about all this, and I think maybe it is the hardest hike I've done, because I'm thinking about the hike I've done in a day, and
Uh-huh.
that would be Devil's Path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say that, and then I'd say like the second or third would be like a half dome hike or like an enchantments hike that I did. They were like the same mileage, but they weren't as much elevation gain.
Uh-huh.
Still, like Mel said, it really depends on like the environment, the people you're with, or you know how you're feeling that day, your mind, your body, all.
Spence, what was your biggest takeaway from being roving support on our big day?
That I can do it and still have a good time.
That's good. That's important.
Yeah, I was so anticipating having this awesome night hike. We were going to crush it and get through this whole thing. It was going to be amazing. And then we got to the halfway point. I was like, okay, we need to call it. There's a wonderful fire down here. It's cozy. John's clearly calling us home to the barbecue. I get it. But the fact that I was able to do that and still have a good time with a half of a devil, it was good.
Nice. Yours?
Just that I could do it again and do it faster, and you know, a lot of it was alone, so like I always tell people I don't like to go on really long hikes alone because like I think a lot, so like I'm like I don't want to get into that, you know, but I actually felt great being alone, so like just that alone was like just good feeling. It was like, okay, I don't, you know, that's actually pretty cool, like it's not that bad. And then I don't know, just like I was just proud of myself for doing it again.
There you go. I'm proud of yourself.
Just, you know, and faster, and I ended in the middle of the afternoon instead of like, I don't know what time it was.
End of the night last time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a crazy different experience from the first time. So it's pretty cool. And it makes me want to, I always say I want to do it again backwards.
The opposite way, right? We will.
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah.
Next time. What about yours, Vanessa?
Biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway?
I think to just like be in the moment and trust what you're feeling, because it's not the first time where I've done a hike with you where I didn't commit to doing the full extent, but also in the back of my mind, I always like to think about it myself before I put it out there to other people. But I think sometimes that's a good way to look at it, like not thinking like, oh, I have to do, what did you say, it was like 37 miles, the out and back? Like I planned on doing the 23, I think we established, right, halfway. And then kind of just be in that moment, and if you're feeling it, go for it, and do the rest. So I'm excited too to go back and do the full double now.
A couple months.
What
Couple
we've learned
months.
And take that into consideration doing it again.
Brittany?
I guess like the whole vibe. It was such a positive vibe. And then also like I felt like I could do more. So I guess there's a next time I keep hearing about.
There will be a next time.
We'll see.
For sure. Rosette?
Yeah, I'd say just like don't doubt yourself. I tend to do that sometimes, and you know, I think just keep pushing yourself, and you'll get there. You know.
John?
Good question. I'm trying to think about it when you're asking. I think, you know, because I feel like I'm like one of the, unless Joel is with us, I feel like the oldest one now that's in the group on a regular basis. So I've had to change my training routine, I've noticed the last couple of years. So for this one, I changed up my training routine, and I guess it paid dividends. Kind of
Nice.
thing. So I guess that's it. And then it told me one of the things I would like to do is like the PEMI loop, but the extended version, which is like closer to 40 miles in a single
Okay.
day. And it's kind of told me that like, yeah, it's possible, because I've done the Great Range in a day and the Devil's Path twice in a day. So I feel like that I could probably do in a day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's got you looking ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
And yours?
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway is that it's okay to give up sometimes, I think, which
I think that was hard for you.
that was very, very hard for
Yeah.
me. I mean, in the video, you can see that I don't even think in the video it was there, but I'm trying to tell Spencer, oh, I could still do it. And like, I mean, there was half of my brain that was ready to try to finish that, even though I
Herculean
physically
work,
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have been
Probably
completely.
would have, but it would have been.
It would have been rough. It would have been rough.
Even just the recovery you would have needed.
Yeah.
And
It just wouldn't have been enjoyable.
No, it would not have been
Yeah.
enjoyable. I would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
But not only would, because I was already destroyed when I got to the point after 37 miles. If I would have done the rest, I would have got more destroyed, gotten to the house, everyone would have been asleep. I would have probably slept late. Everybody would have been gone by the time I woke up. The barbecue would have been cold or eaten. So I wouldn't have been able to do any of that.
we would not eat your fireman.
Never, never.
That's it.
I don't
like-
know, speak for yourself when I have a couple glasses of wine.
No,
I was
so,
actually, so when we all found out you guys were heading back,
uh-huh.
I was like, I wonder what his mood's gonna be when we get back. Because I knew you were so just like ready to do the whole thing.
Disappointed.
But when you came back, you weren't like beating yourself up really at all. At least not verbally. I don't know where you're going on in your head.
No.
But, like, I was like surprised. I was like, wow, he's like actually in pretty good spirits considering he had to tap out. You know, I know he hates doing that. Like I know you. Like you
Yes.
hate giving up on anything, whatever it is. So you still had like pretty good
I think that was probably
spirits, you know.
credit to a lot of you people being there.
Yeah.
Imagine if that house was empty and it was just Spence kind of holding me by the top of the top of the forearm, like pushing me in gently into an empty house. I would have
Yeah.
just like I would have been much more disappointed.
Yeah.
So all of you being there kept my energy going because I even stayed up after a while after I got back home after all that. But yeah, I think the lesson was that it's okay sometimes to give up that day and try again in the future because I know the next time we do it, I'm gonna do the whole double devil. It's gonna
You
happen.
know that you could have done it, and everyone knows that you could have done it. I also know how long it would have taken. For
Yes,
you to do it.
yes, it would have taken a while.
You had everything that you have everything that it takes to do a double devil, and the fact that you were able to get to the point where you could put the rest of the group ahead of yourself, I think was the biggest takeaway for me. That you are capable of that, and that takes even more than the physical of doing that last quarter.
I can see where you're coming from with that. I get that. I appreciate that. What's your favorite peak of the Devil's Path?
Hunter.
Hunter.
Man. Oh, I don't think I've ever thought of this because it's all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a very unique love-hate relationship with Plateau. I don't know what it is. I think I love the challenge of going up it. I hate it while it's happening, but then when you get up there, you're like, okay, yes.
Uh-huh.
And I just really love that Orchard Point view too. So
That's a good spot right there.
yeah, I'm gonna go with
Plateau.
that. Mhm.
I'm gonna ditto Plateau because that nice, smooth, runnable part
Yeah.
up there where
That's
we were
true.
cruising and you're like, I
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing this. I'm like, no, we could do it. We could do it. It's so runnable.
And
I think
so
I ran that
spongy.
too.
Yeah,
It was
Spongy.
like
Yeah.
Because we were, and then you were like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm like,
yeah.
it's
No,
okay,
after
just keep
after
going.
all that climbing and down, it felt so nice, just a flat.
Yes.
You know, easy. Just I think I ran that too, even though, you know, I was exhausted from climbing it, but.
I think I have a video of me saying that from like the last time we did Devil's Path and me getting to Plateau and being like, finally, some flat ground.
After all that climbing before, it feels so good to be at the top of the plateau right now. Literally feels good. The ground is like spongy. It's flat.
Brittany, what about your favorite peak?
West Hill because it's like the marking of the
Uh-huh,
end,
yeah.
and also because like the first time we did it, we were so like hoping for that sunset, and it was just black.
Uh-huh.
And Daniel just being like, "Oh, you missed a great sunset." Yeah. So then the second time, I had to like set my backpack up to take a little picture because I was by myself.
Yep,
I need a little picture there of West Hill. So
West Hill.
West Hill it is.
Rosette, your favorite peak?
I'd say Twin.
Twin.
Twin all the way. Yeah.
Just because the view is so good?
Amazing views, and I felt like I stumbled upon Twin pretty fast. I was like happy with my timing when I got to Twin.
Totally get that. John?
I'm gonna go with Indian Head because like a couple times I've gone up it. One time it was with you two, you
Yep.
and Spence, where it's like an ocean of clouds underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause you get up there early enough in the morning where it hasn't burnt up,
Oh, yeah.
and you just see like there's a few mountains look like islands out there, and it's just, you get that early morning light, and it's just like it's like magical.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Is there any advice you'd give to somebody who wants to hike the Devil's Path for the first time in a day, or any type of wrap-up comments that you'd like to make regarding the Devil's Path?
You can hike the Devil's Path with Proactive. We can help you do it.
Yes, I like that. Mel,
That was a good one.
that was a good one.
I would say just don't get too wrapped up in like how fast you want to do it. Take your time. Remember to drink water. Take care of your body because that's once that goes, it's but it's doable. I mean, you can do it if you just you push yourself and you have that mental motivation.
Vanessa.
I mean, the same thing. Like, it's the support system. Like, I don't think I would have had as good of a day if it wasn't with you guys.
Brittany.
Have a good middleman.
Have a good middleman.
Yeah.
Rosette.
I would say I feel like if you're a regular hiker, you can absolutely do Devil's Path.
Little motivation. John?
Good question. I guess you don't get some practice hikes out there. Things with like not a lot of elevation, but distance.
Mm-hmm.
Things with some elevation in it. and just get to figure out, like what happened to Joe and some other folks, like figure out what your diet is, like what works for you. Make sure you're hydrated and just be prepared. Like, I think some people got caught in rain and in snow, and so you don't know. Luckily the Catskills are not the White Mountains where the elements can change on a dime, but they can change. So just like kind of keeping an eye on the weather and stuff like that.
Being prepared.
It's being prepared, yeah.
Very good.
What about you?
What would be a piece of advice I would
Yeah.
give? Expect to be in pain and expect to be very tired, especially the first time you do it. But it's extremely doable. The first time I did it, I finished with our buddy Kevin, in the snow, in the dark. I had fallen earlier in the day, so I kind of gave myself some nerve damage on my shoulder and my toe. But you know what? It was fine. Got to the end.
3 more times or 4 more times?
Yeah, exactly. I
after
did 3 or
that,
4 more times. So, like, clearly it's okay. But basically, just be prepared for the pain. Because I'm sure there's somebody who looks at just, they glaze over some of the details. And they say, oh, a hard hike. I could do a hard hike. And they just don't jump into it. Devil's Path is a pretty hard hike. You're going to feel the pain. It's called one of the hardest hikes on the East Coast, which is kind of cool that we just knocked it out rather casually a few months ago. And we'll do so again very soon. So that's our story on the Devil's Path. I'm going to thank all these guys again for being here. Spence, Mel, Vanessa, Brittany, Rosette, John. Thank you all for being here and making this trip and trying this experiment out with 6 guests on this podcast. I'm really excited to see how this comes out. We just talked about the Devil's Path. This is Proactive. You can find us at Proactive AHW on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and X. I'm Joe. That's Jared. And that's it. There we go. It only took a few goes at the end there.
I like that.
Thank you.
We were doing so good.
I know, you're doing so good.
In the final moments of Devil's Path. Hell yeah.